The story of the Jamaican Maroons is one of resilience, survival, and an underdog's victory over the mighty British Empire. For decades, the Maroons, who were previously enslaved Africans, managed to carve out independent communities in the mountains of Jamaica, resisting the relentless advances of the British colonizers. Their story reaches its most dramatic point in the early 19th century during the Baptist War, also known as the Christmas Rebellion or the Great Jamaican Slave Revolt. In this video, we'll dive deep into who the Maroons were, the events leading up to the Baptist War, and how this group of determined fighters managed to hold their ground against one of the most formidable imperial powers of the time. Keep watching to learn more about the Jamaican Maroons and their war against the British. Who were the Maroons? The term Maroons refers to African people who escaped from enslavement and established independent communities. In Jamaica, the Maroons can trace their roots back to the early 1500s, when the Spanish colonized the island, enslaved the native Taino population, and brought Africans to the island to work on plantations. When the British took control of Jamaica from the Spanish in 1655, many enslaved Africans escaped into the mountains and jungles, forming the basis of what would become Maroon communities. Jamaica's terrain played a crucial role in their survival. The island's dense forests, steep hills, and rugged mountains made it difficult for the British to launch effective military campaigns against the Maroons. Their environment became their stronghold, allowing them to live off the land and evade capture. Over time, the Maroons developed sophisticated guerrilla warfare tactics that would become legendary. By the 18th century, two main groups of Maroons had emerged: the Leeward Maroons in the western part of the island and the Windward Maroons in the east. These groups, led by skilled warriors such as Cudjoe and Nanny, became a constant thorn in the side of the British, who sought to re-enslave them and destroy their communities. The First Maroon War, from 1728 to 1739, marked a significant chapter in the Maroons' history. The Maroons fought fiercely against the British forces for over a decade, refusing to surrender. Their knowledge of the terrain and their military tactics gave them an edge over the British soldiers, who were unfamiliar with the island's harsh environments. Despite their smaller numbers, the Maroons could hold off the British, ultimately forcing them to sign peace treaties in 1739 and 1740. These treaties granted the Maroons a sense of autonomy, allowing them to maintain their freedom and land in exchange for agreeing to assist the British in capturing future runaway slaves. While these agreements secured the Maroons' immediate survival, they also created tension within the wider enslaved population of Jamaica. Over the next century, the Maroons would find themselves in a precarious position, balancing their freedom against their role in British colonial society. The British threat. The British Empire's relentless expansion constantly tested the uneasy peace between the Maroons and the British. Throughout the 18th and early 19th centuries, Jamaica became one of Britain's most valuable colonies, primarily due to its sugar plantations, which were worked by a massive enslaved population. As the British sought to increase their control over the island, they continued encroaching on Maroon territories, threatening their hard-won independence. The Second Maroon War, 1795 to 1796, directly resulted from these tensions. The Trelawney Town Maroons, one of the most powerful Maroon groups, rose against the British after enduring years of provocations, including land disputes and the harsh punishments imposed by the colonial government. Although this conflict was much shorter than the First War, it was no less intense. The Maroons once again employed guerrilla tactics, ambushing British troops and using the mountains to their advantage. However, the British were better prepared this time. They deployed more troops and offered rewards to anyone who captured a Maroon. The war ended in 1796 with the defeat of the Maroons and the deportation of many of their leaders to Nova Scotia. Those leaders were later relocated to Sierra Leone in West Africa. This marked a low point for the Maroon communities, but the fight was not over. Their resilience would soon be tested again during the Baptist War. The Baptist War. The Baptist War, also known as the Christmas Rebellion, erupted in December 1831 under the leadership of Samuel Sharpe, a literate enslaved Baptist preacher. Sharpe was a deacon, and his faith profoundly shaped his understanding of freedom, justice, and human dignity. However, his role as a deacon was not merely religious. His position allowed him to act as an unofficial community leader, and he began to speak openly about the injustice of slavery. Using the church as a meeting place, he preached about the possibility of earthly freedom, sowing the seeds of resistance. By this time, the abolitionist movement in Britain was gaining momentum, and many enslaved people in Jamaica had been led to believe that freedom was imminent. When this freedom failed to materialize, the enslaved population's frustration boiled over into open rebellion. Sharpe set a plan in motion for Christmas Day 1831 when he launched the strike that started the Baptist War. Samuel Sharpe and his followers organized a strike, intending it to be a non-violent protest to use peaceful methods to achieve justice. He intended to demand freedom and better working conditions. However, the strike quickly escalated to a full-scale uprising, with over 60,000 enslaved Jamaicans taking part in the revolt. Plantations were burned and crops were destroyed as the rebels sought to cripple the island's economy. The British, alarmed by the scale of the uprising, quickly mobilized their forces to crush the rebellion. The Maroons were caught in a difficult position. Although they had long been symbols of resistance against the British, their treaties with the colonial government obligated them to assist in suppressing slave revolts. Faced with the prospect of losing their hard-won autonomy, many Maroon groups, including a group called the Emancipation Maroons, chose to side with the British during the Baptist War. This decision was controversial, and it remains a topic of debate among today's historians. While the Maroons had their own survival to consider, their role in suppressing the Baptist War has often been seen as a betrayal by the wider slave population. If all the Maroons had fought against the British during the Baptist War, the rebels who fought the British might have come out on top. As controversial as their so-called betrayal may be, their involvement was crucial to the British effort to quell the rebellion, and it changed the tide of history, especially for enslaved people under British rule. Despite the eventual defeat of the rebels, the Baptist War was a turning point in Jamaica's history. The brutal response by the British, which included the execution of over 500 rebels and the destruction of several Baptist churches, shocked the British public and galvanized support for the abolitionist cause. Samuel Sharpe was executed, along with many others. British Parliament passed the Slavery Abolition Act of 1833, which ended slavery throughout the British Empire. How the Maroons defeated the British. While the Maroons' role in the Baptist War was complex, their earlier victories against the British were clear examples of the power of guerrilla warfare. The Maroons had long understood they could not match the British regarding manpower or weaponry. Instead, they relied on their intimate knowledge of Jamaica's rugged landscape, using the mountains and forests to launch surprise attacks on British forces. One of the critical elements of the Maroons' success was their ability to move quickly and silently through the terrain. The British, unused to the dense jungle and steep mountains, found themselves at a significant disadvantage. Maroon warriors would often strike under darkness, ambushing British patrols and disappearing before reinforcements could arrive. The leadership of figures like Cudjoe and Nanny was also instrumental in their victories. Nanny, in particular, became a symbol of Maroon resistance, known for her leadership and spiritual prowess. According to legend, she could catch bullets with her hands and communicate with her ancestors, giving her and her warriors a supernatural edge in battle. The Maroons' tactics forced the British to adopt a more defensive posture. Instead of launching large-scale assaults, the British were often confined to their forts and outposts, unable to venture into the Maroons' territory without risking ambush. The toll of these constant attacks weighed heavily on British soldiers, many of whom were unaccustomed to fighting in such difficult conditions. Ultimately, the Maroons' victory was not just a triumph of military strategy. It was a testament to their determination and will to remain free. Even when facing overwhelming odds, the Maroons refused to surrender, and their defiance became an inspiration to the other oppressed peoples throughout the Caribbean. Although the only war against the British they truly triumphed in was the First Maroon War, they achieved a much more significant victory in the wake of the Baptist War. It pushed the British Empire to end slavery. So, although they were technically defeated in the Baptist War, their underdog story still ended in freedom from the British. The legacy of the Baptist War and Maroon resistance. The significance of the Maroons' victory against the British cannot be overstated. Their success in maintaining their autonomy in the face of a powerful empire was a rare and remarkable achievement in the context of colonial history. The Maroon story became a symbol of resistance, not only for enslaved people in Jamaica, but for oppressed peoples throughout the Americas. Although not directly led by the Maroons, the Baptist War was part of Jamaica's broader struggle for freedom and justice. The war's impact on the abolition movement in Britain cannot be overlooked. The events of the rebellion, particularly the harsh British response, played a crucial role in accelerating the end of slavery throughout the empire. In the years that followed, the Maroons continued to play an essential role in Jamaican society. Although their communities were never as powerful as they had been in the 18th century, they remained a symbol of resistance and self-determination. The legacy of the Maroons and the Baptist War would inspire future generations of Jamaicans in their quest for independence, which was finally achieved in 1962. Today, the Maroons are celebrated as national heroes in Jamaica. Figures like Nanny of the Maroons are remembered for their bravery and leadership, and their story is still taught as a testament to the power of resistance against oppression. The Maroons' underdog victory. The story of the Jamaican Maroons is one of the greatest underdog victories in history. Against all odds, they managed to carve out a space of freedom in a world dominated by the British Empire and slavery. Their victories against the British, particularly in the First Maroon War, demonstrated that determination, unity, and strategic brilliance could defeat even the most powerful colonial forces. The Baptist War, which is a more complex chapter in their history, underscores the broader struggle for freedom in Jamaica. The Maroons' role in this conflict, along with their earlier victories, contributed to the eventual abolition of slavery and the long march toward Jamaican independence. Ultimately, the Maroons' triumph is not just a victory of one people over another. It is a victory for all those who have fought for their freedom against impossible odds and refused to bow to tyranny. How would you like to get a deeper understanding of history, impress your friends, and predict the future more accurately based on past events? If this sounds like something you might be into, then check out the brand new Captivating History Book Club by clicking the first link in the description. To learn more about the Maroons, the Baptist War, and the Great Jamaican Slave Revolt, check out our book, The Baptist War, a captivating guide to the origins, events, and legacy of the Great Jamaican Slave Revolt. It's available as an ebook, paperback, and audiobook. Also, grab your free mythology bundle ebook while it's still available. All links are in the description. If you found the video captivating, please hit the like button and subscribe for more videos like this.